Hello and welcome to the IELTS Focus. Ever stop to think about how fish move so easily through water when, for us, it's such a struggle? Well, today we're going to break down an IELTS-style reading passage all about undersea movement. We'll get into the physics, the anatomy, and the pure power that lets these creatures own their environment. Let's get right into it. So everything really starts with this one question. Why is it so tough to move underwater? I mean, it seems kind of obvious, right? But the actual science behind it is pretty fascinating. And this single problem, it's the key to understanding, well, everything about how fish evolved to swim. And the first piece of that puzzle is a key vocabulary word, density. You see, water is incredibly dense. We're talking about 800 times denser than air. That's the main reason it's such a challenge. It's like trying to run through, a giant pool of honey instead of air. This one concept is the absolute foundation for the whole passage. So when you're reading a paragraph like this on the IELTS, you're looking for the main points. And here it's not just one thing. Underwater creatures are facing like a triple threat. You've got the super high density of the water pushing back, a really complex mix of forces like drag, and of course powerful currents that can just throw them off course. So let's see how they deal with all that.
Okay, so how do fish solve this big problem? Well, nature's given them this amazing toolkit, and it all starts with their anatomy. I mean, their bodies are just perfectly engineered for living in the water.
So let's ask the most direct question. Which parts of a fish are actually doing all the heavy lifting? It turns out it's a little more complex than just, wagging its tail back and forth. A fish's body is a real marvel of engineering. You've got the skeleton, which is the framework. The skull is this fixed anchor point, and the super flexible spine acts like a whole series of levers. But here's something the passage points out that might surprise you. The fins aren't the main engine. Nope. They're much more like rudders on a boat, used for steering and staying stable, not for creating most of that forward push. Now here's a fantastic academic vocabulary word for you, fulcrum. This is exactly the kind of word you'd see on the test. In a fish, the skull is the fulcrum. It's the stable, unmoving point. The rest of the body then pivots against it, like a lever, and that's what lets the muscles transfer all their energy into that powerful forward motion. So, if the skeleton is the framework, what's the engine? Well, the real force, the actual raw power behind all this movement, that comes from the muscles. The way a fish actually swims is basically a chain reaction. It all starts with the muscles contracting in this wave that just flows from the head all the way to the tail. This wave pushes the fish's body against that dense water, and then physics takes over. The water pushes back, and that's what shoots the fish forward. It's just a beautiful, simple example of physics in action. Now this is fascinating. Fish have two totally different kinds of muscle for two very different jobs. First, there's the red muscle. Think of this like a marathon runner's engine. It's super efficient, built for all that day-to-day cruising around. But then you have the white muscle, and this makes up most of the fish's body. And that's the emergency power, built for a short, crazy fast burst of speed. The passage uses this great phrase to describe it, a huge auxiliary power pack. That's the perfect way to put it. This white muscle is basically the fish's secret weapon, its emergency escape system. It only kicks in when its life is seriously on the line. Okay, so we've got the framework, we've got the steering, and we've got the engine. Now let's put it all together and see what the result is. The amazing different speeds and swimming styles that this anatomy makes possible. Each fin has a really specific job to do, kind of like the different flaps on an airplane wing. The tail fin, that gives up to 40% of the forward push. Then you have the median fins on the top and bottom, which stop the fish from rolling from side to side. And finally, the paired fins on the sides, they control the pitch, so they up and down movement, and they also act as the brakes. It's important to remember that not all fish swim the same way. The passage actually groups them into different categories. You've got the slow and steady sneakers, like eels, which are built for stamina. Then there are the explosive sprinters, like pike, designed for ambush attacks. Each style is a perfect adaptation to where and how they live. This is a classic matching task you might see on the IELTS. Okay, let's talk about some pure speed. A tuna, which is just built for long-distance swimming, can keep up an incredible 44 miles per hour. I mean, think about that for a second. That's faster than the speed limit in a lot of cities. But hold on, if you thought that was fast, get ready for this. For a short burst, a sailfish can hit an unbelievable 68 miles per hour. That is highway speed. It just goes to show you the massive difference between a steady cruising speed and an all-out sprint.
And this brings us to a really cool and maybe confusing point from the passage, a paradox. So a smaller fish is actually a more able swimmer. It's more agile, more skillful in how it moves. But when you're just talking about raw speed and miles per hour, a bigger fish, like that tuna, is pretty much always going to be faster. It's a really important difference between skill and pure power.
So this leaves us with one last thing to think about. Is a bigger fish always a better swimmer? And the answer, as you can see, isn't as simple yes or no. It really makes you think about what better even means. Is it about raw speed, or is it about overall skill? And it's that kind of tricky, nuanced question that makes these science passages so interesting to break down.